Welcome aboard TED Talks Cruises, the podcast where wanderlust meets wisdom. Join our two hosts on a cruising adventure full of laughter, learning, and luxury. Ken Conan is a cruise rookie. He's wide-eyed, full of questions, and maybe still figuring out which end is aft. Ted Blank is a seasoned cruise expert who's been there, done that, and he even has a preferred deck chair. Each week, Ted and Ken dive into the world of cruising, from picking the right itinerary to insider tips, their personal insights, and behind-the-scenes secrets. Whether you're planning your first cruise or you're a platinum tier cruiser looking for fresh perspectives, TED Talks Cruises brings relatable stories, helpful advice, and plenty of good vibes. So get ready to laugh, learn, and set sail. No passport required.
Hey, it's Ken Conan with TED Talks Cruises. We've got our special guest, as always, Mr. Ted Blank. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for joining me in the booth today. We've got a fun topic, and this is one that is kind of timely for me, in that it's river cruises, and you framed it up as your first river cruise.
Yeah, I thought we'd maybe answer some kind of questions that folks might have if they're thinking about taking their first river cruise. And we've talked about some of the itineraries, but I think there are a lot of practical questions that people have that maybe we can give them a start in thinking about today.
I love it. Love it. Do you want me to hit you with a couple questions?
Well, yes. Maybe actually you should tell us. Well, should I tell you about my first river cruise?
Yeah, let's do our
and
first.
You can tell your first river cruise. I'll be kind of
first
brief.
time.
I won a river cruise.
Come on.
Actually. Yeah, I sent away for before I was a travel agent.
I was going to say before.
I would always send away for cruise brochures.
Okay.
And so I got one in the mail one time, and it came with a letter that said, "Congratulations, you're a winner."
Oh.
Well, of course, you can imagine the
Sure.
response, but I thought, well, it's worth giving a call to. So I gave him a call. And it was actually a small river cruise company that no longer exists.
Okay.
And sure enough, I had a river cruise. And so
you
I went
were a
on
winner.
I went on my first river cruise on the Rhône and the Saône rivers in France. I think I was 28 years old, so
Youngster.
I was on the young side for that cruise. But it was amazing. It was really amazing, and probably it did steer me down the career path I'm on now. Kind of steered me back to it, and it was just a fantastic experience. But this is when river cruise ships were pretty small and pretty pokey.
Okay.
So the stateroom was like a train compartment, and you had two beds that folded down for beds. And they folded up during the day, and you had two sofas, and you had a tiny bathroom and a window.
Oh my gosh!
And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but that was my first river cruise.
Folding beds.
So I think the question was, is this real? But yeah, it was a neat experience. That was my first, and yours was actually a little more recent than that.
A little fancier, maybe a little more luxury. I think on mine, we had Shannon and I had the opportunity to go down the Rhine River for our first cruise, and we started
almost exactly 2 years ago.
Gosh, is that right?
Yeah, probably.
Wow, time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just all of a sudden.
Or actually,
2 years
it was
ago.
only a year ago.
No,
probably was 2 years ago.
I think it was 2 years ago. Oh my gosh, is that right? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, the Rhine River was and it was on Ama waterways, and it was just delightful. One of the ahas for me was the pre-cruise. Tell me if I'm saying this wrong. Pre-cruise stay that we did. And so we were in Zurich, and then we went to Lucerne.
Yep.
And Zurich was, I don't know, I'm not a huge big city guy. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
But Zurich was really fun. They had there's a river. I don't know. It was just really nice.
Yeah, it's a nice city. I mean, all the Swiss cities are nice, and even a big city in Switzerland is nice. So yeah. But you liked it enough that you went back.
Yeah,
on another river cruise
for sure. So we went back last spring that we had, or this last spring?
Yeah, this year.
Yeah. And then
on the Danube.
Yeah, we did a double whammy on that one. We did the Danube, then we did we took a break in Vienna.
For a conference.
For the conference. Shan was in the conference. I was in the Alps.
That's how it should be, right? That's how it should be.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Which is amazing to say. It was just well, you got the conference. I think I'm just going to jump on a train.
Go to the Alps.
It's just it's almost surreal to say it, and it was just awesome.
Yeah.
And then after her conference, then we jumped on a different cruise ship and cruised further down the Danube, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
The Rhine was my first trip. It was interesting. It wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting to pull up to these cities. And so I think of like St. Paul, Minnesota, or Minneapolis, where there's not a whole lot that like looks at the river.
Right.
Like the river seems to be
They
like
kind of hide it almost.
it's like an afterthought.
Yeah.
And that's not the case on the Rhine. It's like you're pulling up to
The
like,
town center.
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. The river is part of the city. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, right. So you pull it right, exactly. So you pull into like the best part of the city and walk off the ship, and you're like,
Here I am.
here I am. Hello.
Yeah. No, it is that first river cruise is. I think you always remember it, and I've been on many since then, but I always will remember that first river cruise because it was different, and it was I didn't have anybody to ask questions of when I went on it. It was like, well, here's your confirmation, it's a free cruise, so don't bother us, and we'll see you on board. And it's nice to have someone to talk to and answer those questions. So
for sure.
Sounds like you've got some questions to hit me up with.
For sure. So I always think like, when other folks are traveling with their first cruise, like for me, packing was a major question for me. Like, how do I pack for a cruise ship? And one of the things that part of the packing thought, I was under the impression that I needed to bring a jacket, a tie, slacks, dress shoes, like be able to dress up for the dinners. And that honestly kind of stressed me a little bit because I'm like, gosh, I've got like my daytime wear because we're pretty active. I like to be out and about in the cities, cruising, right? Boom, 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 doing the excursions, walking, doing everything. But then at night, you're switching gear completely. So that was one of the areas where I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's probably the most common question is,
really,
what do I need to pack and what do I need to wear?
Yeah.
And so, kind of the first thing to understand about river cruises is that they are not dressy. You don't need, for the gentleman, you don't need a jacket, you don't need a tie. What I'm wearing today, Dockers, button shirt, vest, polo shirt, for dinner on board the ship, just look nice.
Yep.
And so for men, it's a little easier. I think for ladies, you might want to think about bringing one or two kind of nice outfits.
Okay.
And then, there are a lot of ways that ladies know to accessorize that men have no clue about, scarves and jewelry and, wraps and things like that. So, you don't need to bring a lot of dress clothes. And in fact, many women will wear the same thing, Dockers and some type of a fleece or something like that in the evening. It is not a dressy situation at all.
Yeah.
But that said, you're absolutely correct. You also want to bring comfortable clothing to wear during the day.
Yeah.
Comfortable shoes, certainly, because you will have the opportunity to do a lot of walking if you wish to.
Yeah.
So, bring clothes that are usable for that type of a thing as well. Obviously, the season and the destination plays an important part.
Yeah.
And that if you're going in the spring or the fall or like a Christmas markets cruise, you want to probably dress warmer.
Yep.
Going in the summer, it's probably going to be hot. So shorts and T-shirts are totally appropriate to wear. You got to always think about bad weather. So you probably want to bring, a rain jacket, a poncho, something like that. Maybe some waterproof shoes. Your tennis shoes might not be the best for that. Yep. There's nothing worse than having wet shoes.
Wet feet.
Now, one nice thing is that on I think pretty much every river cruise, the towel bars are heated. So you can always dry your socks on the towel bar if you need to. And laundry is available. On certain cruises or in certain suites, laundry is complimentary. For the most part, it's a fee. You pay a fee for laundry. Usually it's like a bag. You pay for a bag. Probably around $20 to $30 to wash a bag of laundry.
Okay.
So if you're going for a longer trip, you have the opportunity to do that. But if you're traveling overseas, you're kind of doing maybe a 3 or 4 night pre-cruise tour, a river cruise 1 or 2 nights after for 2 weeks, and you have kind of the standard 50-pound economy class luggage allocation. You should be able to pack without any difficulties.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll have people who say, well, I can't, I need to take 2 suitcases or something like that. And I'll always say, well, maybe just go take it, lay it out on your bed and put half of it away. Because you might end up wearing a shirt twice or something like that. And, with the easy availability of laundry, it's not difficult to, get a little bit of laundry done.
Right.
So, don't stress out about packing. You don't have to bring your entire wardrobe. You don't have to bring the jewelry collection. Just bring something nice to wear in the evening. Everybody else is in the same boat you are.
Yeah.
They're also traveling. They're also living out of a suitcase. So nobody's going to have a different outfit every night.
Yeah.
But you don't need to bring that extra layer of kind of the fancy clothes that, add another 30 pounds to your luggage.
Yeah, that was definitely a tip that, that's a great tip. I will echo, for us, we went shoulder season, and it was a little rainy for us at the in Amsterdam that day.
Yeah, and Amsterdam's always kind of a wet city.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I didn't
it's right
know
on
that.
the ocean.
Okay.
It's, very, very close to the ocean. So, yeah, it can be damp.
Makes sense. I will
sunscreen, too, in the summer.
Really?
Bring sunscreen and a hat. Because it's very easy to get sunburned.
Really?
You may not think about it, because you're not lying out there on a sun chair. But
Right.
if you're out walking around and doing a tour and walking around a city for 4 or 5 hours, you can easily get sunburned.
Yeah.
And that's no fun.
Interesting. That's another great tip. One of the other things that I'll echo that you said that was important that I lucked out. So I had a good rain jacket. I love that the ship that we were on, Ama, they had umbrellas for us.
Yeah, most of them do have umbrellas.
Very classy.
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
big enough umbrellas,
Yes.
golf umbrellas.
Yeah, huge ones. And then the footwear, a miss for me. First trip, I was a miss, and I will not make that mistake again because the waterproof shoes I don't have them on right now, but I've got a pair of Keens.
That's
Perfect.
Yeah, and if they're comfortable comfortable walking shoes.
Yes,
because you're going to use them when you go out. So absolutely.
Yeah, that was something that those Keens I used on the Danube trip when we were off hiking one time. A little wet in the morning, and it was a little muddy, and I was like, "This is perfect."
Yeah.
I just felt like, I had it dialed.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
What about so food? You and I are both foodies. So food was something when I was on the ship. I was just curious, like, what are we gonna be? What's the deal? Am I just gonna be like yogurt and granola in the morning, or is it gonna be this huge buffet, or is it gonna be made to order eggs or something in between? And then, what did lunch look like, and what did dinner look like? I'd love your perspective on that.
Yeah, you're
going
to dine well on a river cruise ship. And, if all you want for breakfast is a little bit of fruit and some yogurt, you can absolutely have that. If you want the full breakfast with eggs and bacon and everything like that, you can have that.
Yeah.
For lunch, kind of the same thing. If you want a sandwich and some soup, you can have that. If you want a salad, you can have that. If you want a more elaborate meal, you can have that. Dinner tends to be, a several course, 3 or 4 course meal, but of course you can pick and choose and have whatever you want.
Yeah.
Most river cruise companies, actually all of them, can accommodate basically any dietary requests except for kosher. They can't do kosher, but they can do pretty much any other dietary request.
Wow.
So that's one of the things we'll talk to our clients about. Do you have any specific dietary requirements? And if so, we want to communicate them to the cruise line in advance so that they know. But generally speaking, what happens is they'll provide you with the menu the night before, and you can take a look at it and you say, I'd really like that, but it has to be gluten-free and no onions. And so they'll work with you to kind of accommodate those special requests, as long as they have a little bit of notice.
Yeah.
They are European companies with European staff, European procurement, right? They're buying their food right there locally. In Europe, a lot of them are using very locally sourced ingredients. There'll be a European flair to the cuisine, but they always have sort of that traditional American fare available as well. So most of them will have some type of a steak, maybe salmon, maybe a Caesar salad, a hamburger, something that's specific for an American palate. And especially if you go river cruising in some more exotic places like Southeast Asia or Egypt, they're still going to have that so that you don't necessarily have to eat that local food if you don't choose to do that. Often they'll always have a Western and a local option available for you. So, there's a nice mix of things. The one joke I always make about Europeans is they don't like to put ice in their soda. They like to drink warm soda. So they include complimentary soft drinks are always included with your meals. So if you want more ice in your soda, just ask. Yeah. They're just kind of not used to that. They drink warm soda, which I don't understand.
Right? I know.
Yeah. The Europeans aren't big ice folks. So they have ice machines, but they don't use them in quite the same way we do. So you will dine very, very well. They are happy to accommodate special requests and special preferences with a little bit of advance notice. And, you've got the opportunity to have something that tastes a little more like home if that's how you, if you're not very adventurous or you just, hey, today I really want a hamburger. they'll have that available for you.
I love that. We found, at least Shannon and I, we would do breakfast. Like for me, I love a good hearty breakfast. So eggs and bacon, some fruit and yogurt, the whole thing. Like, let's get going for the day.
Yep. And some will do that buffet style. Some will do it table service. There's a mix. Different cruise lines do it differently.
That's right. Yeah, I did fall in love with the Eggs Benedict. That was, and then they were like, Mr. Conan, Eggs Benedict today? I'm like,
I don't mind if I do. Thank you.
Totally. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Twist my arm. So breakfast was great. I did find that from time to time, we would kind of run into on one of our excursions a food spot where I'm like,
oh, yes.
I know that we have food included at the ship.
Yes.
But
that is probably the most difficult decision I think people have, because you are in these neat cities that have a lot of neat restaurants, neat dining venues.
Yes.
You can always have lunch ashore.
Yeah.
And there are some ports of call that really lend themselves well to having lunch on shore, and others where it maybe makes a little more sense to head back to the ship. But you'll always have that option available to you.
Yeah, we definitely found one of my favorite pizza places in Germany somehow. We're like, you just walk past these little shops and they've got the pizza out. And you're like, that's going to be good.
Somebody was showing me some pictures in the office yesterday of the famous hot dog stand in Vienna.
Oh.
Yes. So
the one that I took, that I found and took everybody to?
Yes. Yeah.
That one. So here's a hot tip for me. And I don't know if this holds true all the time, but here's what I'd say. I was in Vienna in one of the main squares by the cathedral. I'm sure you know where I'm talking. And I'm just looking around, and I'm like, wow, there's a big line over there.
I wonder what that is.
Wonder what that's all about. And so I kind of mosey on over and peek, and everything looked really good, and the guys were serious about making it. There was no jokery going on. It was like, right? And so that's my hot tip. Look for a place that's popular, and it's probably popular for a reason. And I will tell you what, that place was.
Yeah. So my hot tip is actually to look for the foodie excursions.
Ooh,
so on many cruise lines, they'll have a whole variety of foodie cruises. So it could be a beer and pretzel tasting. It could be a cooking class.
Love it.
It could be a market walk or something like that. So they have a lot of opportunities built into the cruise, as an excursion, either, included in the price or available as an additional add-on that give you kind of a different foodie experience. So look for those, because those are a really neat way to, kind of scratch beneath the surface and learn about that. As well.
So that is one that I definitely need to take you up on, because I've seen those. Was it,
gosh. Well, they have them in Alaska, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, they're all
river
over,
cruise, but
right?
all over the place. Yeah, so they're nuts. Everywhere.
Yeah, there was a market one, and I forget what major city it was in, but I was kicking myself afterwards, because you were like, did you go to the market? And I'm like,
Budapest.
Budapest,
yeah. Yeah, that's a nice excursion.
That was...
and you'll learn about 10,000 uses for paprika.
Who knew?
It's amazing. Who knew? Yeah.
Like that whole lower level was paprika.
Yeah.
Nuts. But to your point, I wish I would have had... Because we did kind of cruise through it, but I wish I would have had a guide that could have told us a little bit more and maybe called out the specific. Here's a great
that makes a huge difference, I think. And when you're taking an excursion from the cruise line, it's really well organized.
Yeah.
So if you need to get there, there's going to be a motor coach that you're going to walk a couple steps to. You'll get on the motor coach. It'll take you right where you need to go.
Yeah.
Someone will explain what you're seeing, which to me, that's the important thing. I can see it, but unless somebody explains it to me, I'm not going to read all the little plaques. And food markets don't tend to have little plaques that explain things. So taking advantage of the seamlessness that's built into a river cruise to have those experiences, I think, is really neat. And then the next day, if you had a little bit, you overindulged in a strudel or something like that, take a hike or do one of the more active excursions.
Yes. All right, that's a great segue. And this another little, not tip or trick, but I don't know. This is something that Shannon and I tried. Was I think it was Avalon, and maybe more of these have the bike thing than I know. But they mentioned to us during one of our stops, don't forget we've got bikes that are both electric or non-electric if you're interested. And so we had some time one afternoon, grabbed a couple electric bikes, and Europe is just so bike friendly.
It is very bike friendly.
We just went for like a 3-hour bike ride, and along the way found a beer stand on the bike path. Who knew you could get a beer?
Yeah. You're lucky you didn't get pulled over, because they have a 0.0 tolerance
for bike riding with a beer in it.
Too, an electric bike. Yeah. So you're lucky you didn't get pulled over.
Goodness.
But that is actually a very common question. It's about mobility and activity levels.
Yeah.
And again, the answer is there are many, many many options available. For people who don't get around as well, there will always be some type of a gentle walking option.
Right.
But I always tell people to keep in mind, you have to get off the ship. You have to walk across the quay.
Yep.
It might be cobblestone. You might have to walk up some stairs to get to the road to get on the motor coach. So there is definitely walking involved. So if you can't kind of walk and stand for 30 to 45 minutes at a time, you may find that your options are very, very limited on a river cruise. And the biggest thing is the uneven ground, because Europe is full of cobblestones.
I agree.
So it's not like you can walk 10 feet, sit down on a bench, walk 10 feet, sit down on a bench.
Yeah.
So that's an element for people who really have mobility difficulties. But for other folks who have kind of normal mobility or really like to do active things, there are some great options as well. There are going to be the standard walking tours. There are, as you mentioned, biking tours. There are hikes. There are faster walking tours. There are longer walking tours. There's so much you can do to, keep active as well. So it kind of really, really runs the spectrum. And, it's interesting because we sometimes talk to people on the extremes. And so, if you have some mobility issues, we want to make sure we talk honestly about that. Because, for example, in Europe, every public restroom is down 2 flights of stairs.
Right.
So if you can't go down 2 flights of stairs to go to the restroom, that's going to be a problem.
Yep.
But by the same token, if you want to do a power 90-mile bike ride every day, that might not be exactly how it's going to work either. So we kind of want to talk about what is available, what's realistic, and what you can do. And the nice thing is, for most folks, there's a great variety. And you can pick and choose, and it's generally going to be included, and it's going to be done very seamlessly, so you don't have to worry about figuring it all out for yourself, which is one of the big joys of river cruising.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. You talked about the slow walkers group, which is when you go on an excursion, there's a very slow group. Yeah. And then there's the speed walkers almost. Mm-hmm. And so Shane and I on our first cruise, we're like, well, let's try the fast group. And then let's try the slow group. And there's an in-between group as well. Yeah,
that's sort of the normal walker group.
Yeah. Yep. Which we would normally put ourselves in that group. Yeah. And so the fast walker group, it was so fast, you weren't really stopping to take things in.
Well, it depends.
At least on the one we went on.
Sometimes they just take you around the block the long way instead of the short way.
True that. Yep.
So it just depends. Yeah. It just depends on the guide. I'll give you an example of actually, I think a situation where you could kind of see sort of the 3 different levels.
Yeah, please do.
So we were in France on a river cruise on the Seine River, and we were in Giverny, which is where Monet's garden is located.
Yeah.
And the garden is about 2 miles from the dock. So you had 3 choices. Take a motor coach to the gardens, get a guided tour.
Mm-hmm.
Ride your bike to the gardens, get a guided tour, or walk to the gardens and get a guided tour. Yeah. So most people, of course, chose to take the motor coach. That was great. They got to do that. Some folks did the bike ride, which was nice. There's kind of a tow path that goes along the canal that takes you there. I decided to walk.
Nice.
And so it was about a 2-mile walk. It was on an old railroad bed. So that was the pretty flat trail. It was paved. A lot of cows, a lot of French cows out and about. But the nice thing was that we had the guide with us the whole time. And so for that 2-mile walk, he basically told us way, way more about what we were going to see at Monet's gardens than the folks who were just in the little motor coach that got a 5-minute introduction. So, pros and cons to both. If you can't walk, there are a lot of things that are doable. You just have to be aware of your limitations. For most people, the walking is part of the experience. And, this is kind of the cruise where you're going to lose weight. You're going to have the opportunity to be really active, even though you're eating really, really well.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of part of it. But yeah, those levels of activity help to make it accessible to a variety of people.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one point when we were going down the I think it's called the Rhine Gorge.
Oh yeah.
And it's just beautiful. There's just castle after castle. Yep. And in between them, I would do a lap on the top of the ship. On the walking path.
Actually, the ships have walking decks on the ship. They have small gyms. Some of them have fitness instructors on board who do yoga or
for sure,
stretch bands or things like that. So you can keep as active as you want, or you can rest and recuperate from a long walk if you need to.
Yeah, I will be very honest. I did not participate in the yoga. I remember coming down for my coffee. And I'm like, what are those guys doing over there? And they're stretching like
there's
2 people.
Always always a yoga group.
Always the yoga group. Yeah. They're all stretching. I'm like, we'll see in a bit.
There you go.
Oh goodness. Trying to think of other questions.
Well, a couple common questions are about currency, tipping.
Oh yes, yes.
Electric converters, hair dryers, things like that. So
Yeah.
one of the things we do at Ted Blank Travel is we always do a departure briefing with our clients where we kind of go through all those different things. So they're pretty simple. Sometimes people get really, where am I going to go get money? And it's actually pretty simple. We'll give you a couple different ways to do that, and we'll talk through the tipping just so you kind of go into it prepared, because there are a lot of little questions, or hey, I'm doing this pre-cruise package, where do I meet my driver? There are a lot of those little logistical questions, or I have a half day of free time in Lucerne, what do I do?
Yes.
Some people love the idea of free time, some people panic based on the idea of free time. Oh, absolutely, they want the whole thing to be planned out, sort of almost minute for minute, so they don't have to worry about making decisions. And so we're going to walk through those with our clients to make sure they we get all those questions answered in kind of that pre-departure briefing. So that's a service we offer to our clients. But there are a lot of those little questions. But I think when you think about it, it's really it is kind of food activity level that are really probably two of the most fundamental questions people have, besides which river cruise to go on and which cruise line to go on. So hopefully we answered some of those questions for folks here today.
Love it. What's the best way to get a hold of you? And like and subscribe as always down below.
Yeah, please like and subscribe. Yeah. You can visit tedblanktravel.com, or you can give us a call at 651-964-8245.
And all the info, if you didn't have a chance to write that down, you can always go, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find that in the description. If you're on a podcast, it's in the description. You'll also find links to the newsletter.
Our newsletter, yep.
So again, thank you for tuning in to TED Talks Cruises. My name is Ken Conan. This is Mr. Ted Blank. We will see you next week. Thanks for joining us.